We're gonna wait a moment for some participants to start joining us. Keep coming in. There's so many participants that signed up. Don't be shy, come in. My phone was going off the hook today. I saw so many people signing up last minute.
I started getting text messages last night as well. Like, is
Yeah.
it too late?
They're like 4 p.m. like at 3:50. So keep coming in. Welcome, welcome. We'll get started in a moment. How are you ladies doing this afternoon?
Good. Excited.
Cannot complain. I am good. How are you?
I'm good. We are halfway through the year, so it feels like, you know, there's so much more to still happen. But, you know, once you get in stride, it's just like, keep going, keep going.
It is. It's like summer is flying by.
Yeah. Yes. I was like, wow, it's already July. This is crazy.
Yeah, it really is.
But as people join us, I'm just going to go ahead and get started with the warm intro and let them jump in and meet us where we are. If you are here today, that means you are an independent business owner. So I would like to welcome you and thank you for joining In Session. In Session is a series and partnership between Visionary Rising Agency and Wethos, which is a financial tech platform built out for integrating invoicing, contracting, really streamlining and making a one-stop shop for independent business owners. So if you're looking for one platform to do it all, Wethos is for you. Today we have two independent business owners with Jamae and Nadia, and they're going to share a little bit about their experiences building their clientele. If you did miss the first series, it is on Wethos's YouTube channel, which talked about launching your business. So we are going to get into it today. I'm going to give one of you the first one. Who wants to go first for an intro? All right, Jamae, we'll do a warm introduction and then we'll get into it.
Okay, awesome. So my name is Jamae Lucas. I am the founder and I guess I call it managing Misfits because we call our team the Misfits of Quirk LLC. I work closely with my business partner, Vincent, and ultimately Quirk is dedicated to helping people in pursuit of their purpose.
And Jamae, or in Nadia?
Yeah, Nadia. My name is Nadia Vanderhoff. I am the founder and owner of the Brands Advanced Strategy Group. Started this, interestingly enough, the last recession. I offer up content as well as consulting within the areas of personal finance as well as branding. I'm a solopreneur, but I also work with other vendors to make sure my clients have the goals as well as what their scope is looking for. So that's it.
And we're so happy to have you today because we wanted to select people that are also newly integrating Wethos, but also that have a various of experience. So if people are watching, don't feel weird about being not 10 years in, 15 years in. All of us on this call here have so many, from just starting to, like we said, like Nadia said, a solopreneur to still having a 9-to-5 and still, grinding it out and wanting to fully launch into that independent business. So feel free to take that weight off of you of being like, I don't know it all and I'm not there yet. That's why we are doing this series to really speak to independent business owners that are at all various stages in their pursuit. So we would like to give a little more of your origin stories, and I am going to go back to Jamae first, because like I said, there are some people that are still in the 9-to-5. And like we have already said, be smart because it is a pandemic and it is a recession, although it has not been announced, it is a recession. So we don't want to give people, the idea of just throw it out there, just jump into there. You need to be very smart and calculated. So I will allow Jamae the floor to give her origin story as a freelancer.
Okay. So it is definitely all over the place. I'm trying to keep this as succinct as possible for you all. So as Ashley just stated, I am not currently full-time freelancing or running my business. I do have a 9-to-5 as well as running both. It is the goal to eventually become full-time. I will say Quirk was inspired by my own trials, tribulations as a, I guess, Black female and the different experiences that I had. So straight out of college, I graduated with no money, no prospects, no job, nothing. I was homeless, just trying to make things, I guess, ends meet and figure out what I could do. Because my background was in design, visual art and design, I basically leveraged those skill sets to figure out how I guess I could move past that. So a lot of people think that design is only, I guess, a creative or aesthetic thing, but it's also about problem solving. So I leaned heavy into the strategy aspect of it and just use that to my advantage to continue to get into different environments where I was able to leverage my skill set, my experience, as well as my network and community. And because of that experience, even though I attribute it to like a box of chocolates, because I've done everything from education to finance, hospitality, you name it, I've probably been in the industry somewhere. I always made sure that those experiences were going to build some skill set that would get me closer to where I wanted to be. And because of that, and the different, I guess, experiences and opportunities that I've been afforded, I wanted to take all of those learnings and my privilege having that and share that with other people. So that's how Quirk started.
I'm so glad that you said that you did various things, you know, as you were on your journey. I share the same sentiment of starting as a nightlife photographer and then moving that into performance photography and then moving that into actually landing first clients, you know? So it doesn't always look like, you know, just linear. Sometimes you try things out. You're like, oh, like you said, and like you also stated, trying to make ends meet, you know? Maybe it's not my passion, but I am just trying to make ends meet. And along the way, I'll gain some skills from hospitality because from hospitality, you understand service, you know? And that's a big thing if you're starting your independent business is understanding how to serve other people, how to, I mean, the word hospitality, be hospitable to people, you know, and communicate and work with people of all different walks of life. So I'm sure some of those things are now embedded into your business practices, which, you know, those are the things right now with small business owners that everyone doesn't have, you know, and now you have a leg in the door with that. So I appreciate you, Jamae, for sharing that. Nadia, we'll go to you.
So the first ideation of my business, because it's like my third life of it right now, started off that my first job out of college got outsourced. It's a recession. I couldn't find a job in marketing. I mean, I spent all this money going to college and I gotta pay them back. But I found out about freelancing when I was on unemployment, and technically I got thrown into it indirectly. And I started off learning about it, figuring out what I wanted to do, and just started off within the blogging aspect of it. So technically I've been a blogger almost as long as I've been a freelancer. And I took the time to understand what my craft was, build myself up. And interestingly enough, I talk about personal finance now on a very grand scale, but that was also the time where I was not so good with my finances. And if you know my story, I pretty much like cleaned out my 401k. Anyway, so during that time, I didn't have a full understanding of what my freelance journey was going to look like, how my company was going to look like. And then I got an understanding of what the freelancing was, start talking to people, start networking. And then I had my journey with it kind of grew and was different because I found myself going back and forth into corporate when I would get a new job, but then working with at a corporation, a retail corporation, I'll take that experience and bring it back to my clients. When I go get a experience back in working with product marketing, I'll take that back into what I was doing with my clients. And then I said, now I kind of want to add the personal finance journey into how I want to rebrand my company. Then when I go to this other job, our rebrand and offer different things and start shaping my company into something else. So I kind of did both at the same time, and I was kind of double dipping at the same time. But me being in corporate and me building and taking on clients at the same time allowed me to figure out how did I want my niche of my brand or my company to start to look like. So that's why I always play up to say, yeah, I got thrown into it indirectly, voluntarily, but the full-time aspect of it came in when my last full-time employer pretty much closed down unexpectedly. Like, we dissolved. That's it. You have no job today. And I was like, oh, it's go time. And that was right at the start of
your
the
safety net
pandemic.
was done, you know.
I was like, oh, okay. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's what a lot of people don't see, that is that you can take from what you're doing at your job or your corporate job and bring that back into your business. And I always tell my clients that that's one thing that you can utilize, is technically that's how you can start what you're doing, is to take from what you're doing every day and kind of, in a sense, get paid for both ways, in a sense.
Yeah, and I just don't think that people understand that it doesn't have to be either or, you know. You can, like we're sharing here, you can take experiences that you're learning from you're spending all your time at these jobs and these corporations. You don't have any skill sets, you don't have anything that you can take and put it into your business. It doesn't have to be in the same industry. It just has to be experience that you can parlay into the next experience, the next part of your journey. So I'm glad that you all shared that and you understood, while I'm working here, I need to be picking up on some things. I need to be learning some things, because this might not be my forever job, you know, and there's no problem with saying that, you know, this might not be my forever place. And I do want to build a business or a studio of some sort at some point in my journey. But along the way, I'm going to, be good and great at what I'm at. And then when it's time to make that jump, use those skills and move forward. With that, I would love to know, Jamae or Nadia, what was your first client? What was your first client, if you can recall? Because like I said, I was trying to think myself, like, what was my actual first client and what did that experience really look like? So if you could take a moment and try to journey back there, we would love to hear it.
You're really taking me back. So first, clarifying question. First client as a established business, or first client just in general?
Either one that you can recall. First one with your business would be great, if you can actually recall it.
Yes. So Quirk is only 2 years old, so that's not difficult to do. I started Quirk by, I guess, the seed money for Quirk by just doing freelance like designs. So building pitch decks, you know, flyers, brochures, the standard things, building brands, logos, whatever. Because eventually I knew that was going to build into something else. And I knew that would be a good segue, because people are going to talk about that experience. How can you craft this messy idea that I have into something succinct and concise and beautiful? And then because you have that understanding, how does it apply in different places? So my first couple of experiences weren't, I guess, bad. They were good experiences. I was able to build that relationship with my clients. However, I remember the first one where we started to pivot into strategy, like in coaching and brand stuff versus just, I guess, the tactical things. And that was very interesting, to say the least. I don't know how deep you want me to go in that, but
we'll pause there.
It taught me a lot.
Yeah.
I completely get it. Yeah. Be a learning curve.
And Nadia, for you?
My first client was technically it was two different ones. A family friend who knew that I was into marketing, and I think it either came from my dad saying, oh, my child could do this and that, you know. And then another one came from me networking within American Marketing Association in Charlotte. Sit on the board there for a couple years, and it came from there. So networking technically two ways, and that allowed me to learn about what I can and can't do and my boundaries, as well as how do I want to structure this thing. So that was a good learning curve, but that's where it came from, networking in a sense.
It's so funny because
perfect way.
understanding your client offerings is something that you might not know from the gate, but you learn. Like, ideally, you're like, yeah, these are the things I'm going to offer. But like Jamae said, now you pivot into strategy and you're like, oh, maybe this might not be the bread and butter. So I would like you to go further into that, Jamae, about, and you too, Nadia, about how did you establish those initial client offerings, you know, and what services do I really want to provide and that I'm great at?
I think that definitely trial and error. I think Nadia hit the nail on the head, where it came from an aspect of networking and putting yourself in that space, but also understanding what you want to do versus what you can do. I really struggled with quieting the shout of should. And this is not like a shameless plug or me patting myself on the back, but we all have a multitude of talents. And just because you have those talents doesn't necessarily mean that that's what drives you and motivates you. So oftentimes I tell my clients to find the intersection between what they love, what they're good at, what the world needs, and what they can be paid for. So once you find that, and we call it a quirk, now that was a shameless plug, then that's where you start to find your purpose and your reason for being, and then you can build off of those things. So yes, I can do graphic design, but why not give someone else who looks like me or might not have that opportunity normally to work with these big clients that opportunity to grow and build themselves, just like I was afforded that opportunity.
Well said. Well said. I have no anecdote for that. That's well said.
Thank you.
Nadia?
I started, how I say it in a reel before, I get most of my content and most of my things from being nosy on social media. And that's how it's kind of, in a sense, it's called market research.
It's just research. Yeah,
it is. It's research. You know, gossip gives me, you know, what I need to know. But back then we didn't have all of what we have now. I didn't have TikTok taught me back then. But I utilized market research as well as industry insights to see what was needed within branding and things of that nature to piggyback off of what I knew, because I started auditing my offerings off of boundaries of this experience that I would have, as well as seeing what people needed. And then just aligning it and formulating my offerings, because I started off offering one thing and then over time it matriculated to look like a different thing. And also seeing what my clients' needs were, and then how the experience align with those needs. And it keeps my offerings as well as the experience in sync. Just like I went to gather with Meta a month or so ago, and just gathering things from that and figuring out, oh, I need to just scrap away from doing this completely and start doing this with my client experience and doing this and this and that. I audit a lot of my offerings often, and that was something that I had to start doing. The pandemic really helped me do that, because what I started offering a couple years ago is not what I offered now. And I found my offerings not too long ago. Google Drive will show you, it's kind of like Facebook memories. It will show you yourself. And I saw what I used to offer and I said, oh, child, I was cheap and I was wrong. But but I saw where I was going, but it was based upon doing your market research, knowing what your wheelhouse is, and knowing your client, and then knowing how can you fuse all that together into building out your experience and your offerings. And I think my first offering was a strategy session, but the strategy session that I have then looks a heck of a lot different than what I have now. And I was like, oh, child, you have grown.
Along the
Um,
way, you see it though, along the way, like you said,
uh-huh.
what it looked like before. I don't think that you can have a core understanding until you start getting those clients, until you start
Mhm.
working with them and having that rapport and saying, okay, maybe I'm cheating myself here, or maybe I could be offering more value up front for this, like you
Mhm.
said, going through that experience and working with them and working with yourself, and Google Drive is great to review, after the project's done, you're saying, okay, well, I think maybe I should do this differently, or maybe
Uh-huh.
I should go and hone in on maybe three, 2 to 3 services here, and then see how I work through for maybe 6 months, and then, move into maybe more services, like Jermaine said, adding on
Yeah, because I was
strategy.
trying to offer everything to everybody, and
Yeah.
then it's like you can't do that. You're not an
Can't.
octopus. You're
Right.
not an octopus. You're a person. So
And
how
as a
do I draw that
solopreneur,
line?
yeah,
Yeah.
as a solopreneur, like you
Mhm.
said, maybe you need to outsource some of those things, get other
Mhm.
people involved. That's something that here at Visionary Rising, we also had to go and audit, like you said, during the pandemic, with our
Mhm.
production studio. So it's like, well, what do we really enjoy? We love authentic storytelling, right? These are the things that we really enjoy, working with specific brands, and doing content production. Then let's hone in on that. We're great at it. Now we're here with the partnership with Wethos.
Oh,
Nice plug,
y'all are
Janae.
great. Y'all are
So,
great.
nice little plug. But we really appreciate, working with specific brands and understanding why, going back to something you said earlier, Nadia, about your father kind of soft pitching you to people that you knew. Word of mouth can be very beneficial to gaining new clients. So can you tell me about any word of mouth that really helped you get those new clients, but also building upon more clients?
Mhm.
Word of mouth kind of worked two ways for me in a sense now. Word of mouth via person and word of mouth via social media is pretty much how I got started. Because people that work with me will start talking about it, and then people who see what I post on social media, just like I started getting talking about personal finance. This is getting ready to sound very weird, and just have to walk with me down this path. I got started talking about stocks, comparing it to bundles of hair of a wig on Facebook, and people understood what the heck I was talking about. And then next thing I know, I have clients
Mm.
because that social proof is part of your word of mouth. And then it's kind of like that's how I was understanding what people had uh issue with. How can I be that solvent of that solution? But that word of mouth is also the people that you know, the people that you work with, and the people that see your work that are ghost followers or ghost or followers of your, who you are, and that they follow your build or what you're doing and things of that nature, and they're like, oh, I see you for done this and done that, and oh, you spoke here, you done, things of that nature, and that's kind of your calling card. Your word of mouth is technically your calling card through people, your work, or just things of that nature.
Mhm.
And it could be this how people find is your next client.
You never know where the next client can come from. You
Mm-hmm.
get an email the next day saying,
Mhm.
I saw, especially this, someone may message you. I know on our first webinar, within 5 to 10 minutes, someone said that, they had already received a new lead. And it's like just sharing your experiences, or like you said, tidbits about personal finances or stocks on social media. People are drawn to just engagement and conversation around similar topics. So
Mm-hmm.
they say, well, they seem to know what they're speaking about. And then you did like relating to, like you said, bundles, something that people know about. And they were
Yeah.
like, okay, maybe I should reach out.
But
So I
don't
will
be
say,
afraid to brag about yourself.
yeah,
Oh, that's
Because
the
I
hardest
bragged
thing though.
about certain things that I've done. Yes, I've started to interweave when I talk about marketing because everybody pretty much knows me. Just talking about personal finance. I'm like, "Sheesh, I've been in corporate marketing forever." And start talking about the things that I've done, and then next thing I know, I started seeing clients on both sides of the house. So you have to also
Mhm.
brag, and that's that social proof that goes into word of mouth.
yeah,
Technically, you your own mouth sometimes.
Yeah.
right. Right. Along the way, like you have
Mhm.
to hype yourself up, sharing, like you
Mhm.
said, sharing the work. We always talk about that here at Visionary Rising as well, sharing the work and being proud of the work that you've done in the past. It's nothing wrong
Right.
with being confident in that way of like, these are the things I've done, because how many people are actually looking at your website if they don't know you, you know? So
Right.
sharing that and having those conversations online does stimulate that word of mouth naturally. You know, it's more like organic reach in that way.
Mhm.
Janae, did you want to add on to that?
Yeah, I think definitely, especially in the age that we're in, online, building your clientele online and that relationship building there is important. But it's very important to understand that at its core, client building is just relationship building. So I think one of my first clients for the business was my nail tech. And it just came from having a conversation, and she was talking about all of the things that she wanted to do, because she went from having a booth at somebody else's shop to working out of her house to going and having her own shop. And I was just being a part of that journey and being able to talk to her about that and showing a genuine interest in her and where she wanted to go, and being able to ask her, okay, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about these things? What do you want to do about that? And being able to challenge her in a way that was going to motivate her and make her better. I think that she was able to see the value, I guess, of the relationship, because, and I might be standing on my own hill here, but when your product is your brain and not something tangible, it is very difficult to, I guess, market that as a thing that people will want, because it's not something you can touch, it's not something you can see, it's something that you have to experience. So through those conversations and putting yourself in those environments, just like Nadia said, like joining these clubs, knowing where your audience is at and going there, or even LinkedIn stalking people and saying, hey, I saw this. I'm like, this is very interesting. I'd love to set up a 15-minute virtual coffee. People love to hear about themselves and get to feel warm about that. So if you're able to, I guess, resonate and relate to someone else for what their interests are and how that you might be able to provide value to them without making it feel like you're a cheap car salesman, I think that is where that balance comes in.
I like how you say that, where it's not like a hard sale, you know, it's all about going to what you said about hospitality. It's all about genuine connections and relationships, you know. Those for me seem like the best clients where it just happens naturally. It's something I can help you and assist you with, you know. Like you said, your nail tech. I had a similar conversation with my hairstylist on Friday, of her saying that, like you said, their natural growth of going from a booth from someone else's establishment, similar of like being in the home and doing their business for so many years. And then her just naturally saying like, listen, I'm trying to grow in my field, in my area expertise. And you just having a natural conversation of, you know, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? You know, and then that turns into a client, you know, just so easily, where you're like, I'm not hard selling you. This isn't a pitch.
Yeah, I don't want
You
to do
know,
that.
I appreciate you, one, because I'm spending time and I'm spending my money here, but also I would love to see you continue to grow. And if I'm a part of that, then that's, you know, a great situation. That leads me into thinking about that ideal customer profile, and how does understanding that really assist independent business owners during that outreach? Take them on.
That is a good question. Yeah. I would say, I mean, I think it's marketing 101 that personas are essential to, I guess, communicate with the people that you want to communicate with, and knowing who your audience is will help you better understand their needs, what they value, and how you can support them in that way. I think understanding the phrase ideal client is funny to me, because it's like, does that even exist? But outlining, Nadia, you said it, and that was like the magic word, but boundaries is where that for me really comes in, because I will say that Quirk targets marginalized communities, specifically BIPOC. However, understanding that there's like 6 degrees of separation in a sense. So just because I'm operating in this market doesn't mean that I can't connect or touch someone in an adjacent market. So in understanding that and keeping that in mind, if something or someone like that comes into your circle, you kind of have to set the expectation to say, this is how we operate here. If you can get down with that, cool. And if you can't, then we'll do what we can to support you, but we'll get you as far as we can take you, and then give you the direction for you to go on your merry way, to say, for lack of a better phrase. But I think the hardest part of starting out was understanding that not everybody is for you, and you are not for everybody else either. So it's okay to let someone go, because that frees up the time to focus on those that really do value you.
Right. And like you said, you already have an understanding of your audience that you're working towards and building with those brands. And that's what I think is necessary in starting out, is having at least a sense of that, you know, where do I want to be? You know, you don't have to have it all fleshed out. Nadia has a lot more experience in this. So how did you kind of develop that first, you know, ideal, like we said, it's ideal client profile?
It went from anyone I could take to I started, you know, taking the same thing that I would learn in corporate and start implementing that in my day-to-day, building clientele, no matter what side of the house it was. But it was seeing what I wanted to do, who I wanted to work with, in what sectors I felt like working in, or, you know, and just starting to figure out how did I want to, you know, how do I want to group that? And you hear this buzzword a lot, customer avatar. And no one really can give a term to that. What that boils down to is what's the characteristics of who do you want to work with? And what kind of businesses do you want to work with? What kind of relationships do you want to have with them? And what kind of scope do you want to have with them? That you can have and build this nice avatar and have read the books and everything like that, but that doesn't really come until you actually go in the field and do and know and grow and say, nah, I don't feel like doing that. On this kind of project, I can deal with this kind of client. On this kind of project, nah, I don't feel like doing this because it's going to take me 2 months, or it's going to take me this amount of hours, or it's going to take me this amount. You kind of have to know beyond just reading on an article or reading on these groups or things of that nature. So it's something that you have to nurture within your own business. And a lot of people go and just get all this information without nurturing their business first to understand what that looks like. And that's something that I had to get clarity within my business over time. And both sides of our offerings, they look different, but they technically operate the same. And then even I find sometimes my clients bing bong, sometimes I say. I work with them on personal finances, and they want to start coming up with a business, and then I say, okay, that's converting to you on this side. That's more money for me, but still, I already qualified them through knowing how they are, to knowing what kind of mindset that they have and their goals. And then I already have clarity on how I can potentially move them already to the other side, because I work with them on one side or the other. And it's just the qualifying process that you continuously do over and over with working through the scope. But that clarity comes from just working, and you can have all the custom avatar and all this good jargon that you want, but you can't really do it until you get the clarity, until you actually do the work or have the cadence within your business.
I love how you say it's doing the work, you know, like we said at the top of it, you have the customer avatar, or the client profile, and the avatars and ideas of what you may think is great for your business, but you have to put in the work and have those experiences, good or bad. And along the way, you kind of refine. It's always a constant refining. If you have an independent business, it's never fully done. Like you said, you have two houses to your business. And along the way, like you say, they may come for personal finance, and then they say, well, she's helping me figure out my money. She's helping me figure out, you know, some stability. And then maybe now I can embark on maybe my passion. And now I need assistance over here. you know? So it's like you said, I have offerings on both sides and I can assist you along the way, you know? Going back to the idea of feedback being something so pivotal in that process. How is feedback, how would I say it? How is feedback synthesized for you? And then how do you also judge really a good client experience within your independent business?
I would say that it's kind of, the experience was good for both parties in a sense. Establishing that level of trust in your relationship building slash clientele building is kind of essential for that, because if they trust that they can work with you, then they should have that level of comfort to say, okay, I like this or I didn't like this. And you should be able to have that level of comfort to say, you know, how did you like that experience? Like, give me, and it doesn't have to be a survey or something so prescriptive where it feels like you're trying to get feedback. But a good indicator is they initially respond. So we do a lot of workshops, for example. So coming out of a workshop and somebody saying like, I've been in this industry for 40 years and I've never thought about this product like this ever in my life. Or somebody coming out of a workshop and saying, wow, like I really feel like I've accomplished something that I've been struggling with for X amount of years, months, days, whatever, is very validating, not only for them, but also for us. So getting those initial reactions is good, but also being able to circle back. And if people are willing to introduce you to other folks or say, hey, I might know somebody that would be good for this, or you just be able to ask them, hey, could I get a testimonial or a quote from you? And they're having that willingness to do so, and then an excitement to do so as well. And then they're giving you your roses and you're realizing like what they're saying about you, like, wait a minute, I did that. Yeah, exactly. It's I guess a rewarding process. So I guess to answer the question, the way that we synthesize feedback is organically and through conversation.
And I love that, like you said, organically. It doesn't have to always be through testimonials or like a survey, you know, like click here and tell us about your experience, like, you know, you would get at a drive-through or something, you know. It's just through conversation and relationship with that client. Nadia, if you'd like to share.
Kind of what you just said about the whole partnership, but something else is that I turned out a little to say is the data gives you the decision, shows the decision of what you do, no matter if it's with the client or just pretty much you're buying. But the scope of the project I work in are these within the revision is also check-ins. And then going back to the initial qualifier, I have where we have those check-ins, but I go back to the initial part of the survey and I see what did you have an issue with, what was the actual scope, and then I go and look within the emails and say, so what did they, how was the sentiment? I'm very big on picking up on energy, very easy in emails and stuff. It's probably why I had my ex. Anyway, I joke a lot, so I bring up my ex. So this way I could read through the text messages and things of that nature. I could read through when my client is feeling some kind of way or they feel happy about something or have any kind of sentiment. So within those key areas of the data from what they were feeling within the initial survey and then within the revisional periods within the scope. So when we have those talks or the check-ins, I can go ahead and bring things up and say, hey, engage what they're feeling and go beyond just those 2 points. But those insights help me position the call better. So by the time I'm offboarding them, I already have an idea of where we were and able to, if it was a hiccup, being able to right that ship before we even get to the end of the ride.
Right.
And so whenever you ask so for a survey, and interestingly enough, my survey and offboarding process is not cookie cutter.
Mhm.
it's all kind of jargon in it, and they probably are they laugh at it like, really, what was this?
Yeah.
But it's just asking about the experience and having that experience be so personalized that they feel they're not feeling like, okay, this survey is like ask me for my testimonial. No, I really care about what's going on, and then adding a part within the experience that even whenever you're finished, sometime down the line, I'm checking in to see how things were going. So my experience is not necessarily when I'm finished, it's a continuation within the funnel that I'm going to follow up. So I audit my client experience at least quarterly, at least,
Mhm.
but the feedback I get is pretty much throughout. But it's the partnership, the data, as well as just how I'm gathering it feedback throughout this, the tonality and things of that nature. So it's been like I say, you learn that just by doing it.
Right.
And it's just something that I've picked up on, and I noticed that some people don't do well. I
Mhm.
learned in other people, and I try to
Right.
pick up what they do well and what they don't. So that's what I do as well.
I feel like
Just
it doesn't matter
saying.
how many years you're in business, it's like you continue to learn and you continue to grow if you want to. You know, you could be like that woman, Jamae, that you said that says, I've been in 40 years of business and like today is the day that I'm making a change. Like, although that's positive information, it's also like maybe you could have made a change and had this information prior, but it's still never too late. You know, it's never too
Right.
late to gain that information and that feedback for your own personal growth. But the things that you said really also aid in like that client retention, like you're saying, whether it's organically or through surveys or quarterly check-ins, which, like you said, continually auditing. It makes it easier to get to the point of like, hey, let's re-sign this contract, you know, because at some point you already have discovered that it is a positive experience for them, you know, whether it be 3 to 6 months, 6 to 9 months, or now, you know, you're doing an annual contract, you get to the point of being like, I don't even have to pitch you now. We've had this experience and you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. Like Jamae said, also mutual. You know, it's been mutually beneficial. And as head of partnerships here at Visionary Rising, I always want to look for mutually beneficial partnerships and engagements because that way we both win and we understand the value. I like to actually go into the idea of contracts because this is something that is such a tough part after you launch your business and people are afraid of, you know, the contract process. I will give the caveat that Wethos has an amazing new feature that allows you to do, like I said, one-stop shop, allows you from the whole understanding of what's the scope of work, what's the value, the time, the money, all of that within one swoop. It launched, I want to say 2 months ago, and it's the easiest invoicing system ever. So if you have not already integrated it, you need to integrate it after this webinar. You need to go tinker with it because it makes it very simple. So I would like to know how have you integrated Wethos thus far as your contracts?
I'll say it revolutionized, it changed the whole game. It was introduced to me by my business partner. He is super tech savvy and he's always looking for like the next thing. And he's always sending me different links. And Wethos is one of those links at the beginning of our relationship. And he was like, it might be good to, you know, track this. It just came out. It doesn't have a lot of features, but it looks like they're a fast growing platform. So maybe we should get in early. And I think what attracted me to Wethos was the learning opportunities there within it, because Wethos is really big on community and creating a space where you can have conversation and learn from that. But we got in there and I think we started to put some of our basic services in there, and we realized we were severely undercharging and undervaluing ourselves. And it was like, wow, okay. So it's kind of that wake up call to understand like where we should be at. And then it also helped us realize the gaps we had in our contract building. For example, legal terms, general terms, confidentiality. And they literally provided a roadmap that was a guide. And it's like, you can literally copy paste this if you don't want to go through it. But if you want to customize it for this scope or this client or for your business, you have the flexibility to do so. And it also makes it more efficient because every time you go back in, those things are saved. So if you need to tweak something, you already have a foundation, or if you know it's the same exact project, you can just Control C, Control V, and it's there for you.
And Nadia, like you have so many years of experience with, like, I know we discussed previously about those holes within the contracts, you know, holes within doing big agency work. And there's always something that the client needs, and they add on, you're like,
Ooh,
listen,
yeah,
this is
yeah.
no longer what we started with. Now we're here, you know?
Yeah.
How, I want to know a little more experience, because you do have, you know, the financial piece as well. How do you simplify the idea of establishing those contract terms and that client approval process?
I'm trying not to crack up. I know, I know about from the working at an agency, but also with working in corporate and having to working with compliance. A lot of people are, when they're starting off as a freelancer and things of that nature, can't go through this, you know, legal jargon and things of that nature. I didn't really get into legal jargon until I started working at a company that has the peanuts in their logo, and I had to start reviewing documents like that. Then I started being able to go through and know how to tailor and go find a template. But the thing about Wethos is that it's right there. I like everything that's right there. I don't feel like going all over the place to do everything. You can Google everything, but I want everything right there. And the thing about it is that it has a template, but yet it's still, you can customize it. You can customize it, and that's the thing that helps me, is that if I have this type of project, if I have something of that nature, it's one thing that I could remember from my previous employer, which was the agency. If having Wethos would have probably saved that client probably like 100,000 easy, because we had that many revisions and many hiccups. I could off the top, because of things with the scope, and oh, they want to have a revision, oh, they want to change this, oh, they want to do that, oh, they want to change it. But I think that contracts are the missing piece that a lot of freelancers, or those that are starting to shift into this world, are missing. And I was just kind of go all over the place when I first started, and then I would miss certain parts and miss this and miss part of the scope. But I think that even if you're good in project management, this, having something like this back when I started, I'm like I said, I was undercharging. I probably been on point then. I probably would have been more synced. And I have certain systems, and one of my clients said, you have everything automated to the point, and I do, and I only deal with so many systems, and that's it. And I have everything in a process. But having Wethos probably a couple years ago, I probably be even further. But even with working in an agency, I can see where even agencies that are not solopreneurs or freelancers can probably benefit from this tremendously, because it's like you could talk yourself off a cliff, because even if you get something off the cuff, but beyond what you have, you say, okay, this is not the same project like this one that I had previously, but the terms are different. And it also gives kind of an educational aspect to those freelancers that are not so legal friendly, to know, okay, this is what this means. Okay, this is how I can kind of how I can mix this and how I can do that. And then, yes, it's a template. And knowing how to get paid and knowing how to put that into a contract is very pivotal, no matter what state of the country that you're in. I would say that, yes, you could have an email, but this right here kind of binds it more and a lot. And I wish people knew that. And just having a process and a system, and a lot of people love to say, oh, get a system. But yet and still, they can't really speak to what that system looks like, and even speak to having that in one place. And I keep saying, I keep recommending Wethos to people. And I wish that, I think, honestly, if I must say, is that my former employer probably would have had Wethos, they probably would have still been open. I'm saying that with straight face, because they were so behind on scope on certain things and just being under and over budget. And when the client want to add on, do all this, if they would have had Wethos, they would have probably still been open. I am saying that with a straight face. That seriously.
A lot of companies though, like we're saying, have folded. I know on Twitter, I see so many conversations on a daily of, I saw yesterday of, hey, we started the startup, pre-pandemic and, it's closing,
Yeah.
Even more so now than ever. It's like, you have to have something to streamline that process. Contracts are already difficult enough. Like you said, the jargon, the average person doesn't understand. You understand because you have a financial background. And even like you said, it was along the way you started being like, okay, this is missing, and no one wants to read 6 pages on a contract,
No.
I mean, we hear it all the time with
Not even
in
a
places like music and stuff, right? Where there's just clauses that people don't understand, and a lot of people don't have access to legal representation. So something like this that simplifies it, and where it's for the common person, and even like you said, you can go through it with your client, like, listen, here's the scope of work, here's the timeline, this is what we're going to be doing. And for us here at Visionary, we're always saying like the value. It's the value of the work, because it's not just the money. The money is great and it gets us to and from, but it's the value of the work. And using those, the service library on Wethos allows you, like you said, Jamae, to see, am I undercharging for this service? Am I spending all my time doing this and providing that value for the client? And maybe I'm not providing the value for myself. And that's how obviously people end up leading to burnout and, or like Nadia said, business is closing because it's like we've undercut ourselves, budgeting is totally off, and now we have to close, because our contracts are just cute and all, but we're really not holding to them,
Exactly.
So I definitely, anyone that is on this webinar that is not already utilized Wethos for their contracts, like I said, it is a new feature. It is available now. If you were to get off of this webinar now, it is available. I want to wrap up with maybe one more question, because I know Jamae mentioned diversity and inclusion is something that your company is really focused on. And all women of color on this call, I think it is vital for us to speak about it as it relates to money, because, so they say Black women in entrepreneurship are the leaders right now, good and bad. But, I would like to speak about, both of your businesses and how you relate to selecting clients for diversity and inclusion projects.
So, as stated, Quirk is dedicated to, or has a focus on BIPOC communities. And we did that because both me and Vincent were in a grad program, and that grad program was specifically, I want to say, there wasn't a lot of us. There was not a lot of minorities in that program, but those that were there, you saw the disparities between when it was kind of geared around entrepreneurship and how you could build in the program. And you could see those that went in front of investors and pitch competitions and things of that nature that didn't look like us often got secured those things, even if it was something that might not really, I don't want to say that didn't matter. Maybe it mattered to somebody else. But when you start to really look at the statistics, I think, and go ahead and fact check me, but I'm pretty sure Black women get 2% of investment monies when it comes 1%. To funding. And when you start to get, I think it's 2% for Black people
for Black people, I think, yeah.
But as you start to add on different minority labels, it starts to go lower and lower and lower. So we work with even LGBTQ plus BIPOC communities, and I think they're just down at like 0.5%. But again, fact check me. So it was very important for us. Like, why do we want to focus and add more to communities that are already getting these resources when we can uplift, those who need them, actually need them? Because people like to talk about pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, but it's not that people lack the intelligence or the skill set to do those things, but if you tell someone who's never been in that kind of environment to figure it out themselves, yes, you can go to Google, it's a great resources, but how do you know what to click on? How do you know what to read? How do you know how to apply those things? So building that environment so that people can do that and have that representation and have access to those resources, I think, and the knowledge there is really important. I think on the flip side of that as well, we do break out each year with a different focus. The first focus was on impact. This year's focus is on revenue. But with that impact model, we wanted to validate that it was something that was needed and that's something that people wanted as well. We also have the, I guess, the other side of our business is about creatives. And again, it stems from our experiences. So building businesses, but then on the other side of things, when you first come out of college, you need like 10 years of experience for them to even consider you for like entry-level jobs at this point. I know I'm being kind of hyperbole, but I think that to sum it up, it was just about creating opportunity for that community so that they could be seen as, I don't want to say viable, but a force to be reckoned with. I don't have the phrase, but
I think that's
like,
it right
we
there.
matter.
Yeah. I know Nadia and I spoke about those things as it relates to personal finance, and in our next session, we will be speaking further about money management as it relates to your independent business. And I believe Nadia will be joining us, obviously, with personal finance as her background. But like we said, within certain communities, it's not just the bootstrap yourself up to being a millionaire, billionaire. It's about education. And that's why we've also done this partnership here with Wethos, because it's about educating people. It's about giving people the information, allowing them to relate to people like Jamae and Nadia here on this webinar, and taking from their experiences, as well as doing your own research, and before you get out into the field of it. Nadia, to close, how do you relate to diversity as it relates to your personal finance clients? And because you're coming from, the money. You don't see many of us in those spaces like that at the top tier levels.
No. And I think I had someone ask me today this question, is that why do I want to be a thought leader within what I'm doing on this space? And I said, because it's not too many people who look like me as a woman and as being Black. And when it comes to, yes, you can know your offerings, yes, you can know what your boundaries are, but you have to really take a look at who are you servicing. And people of color and women are oftentimes those, like Janae said, that are left out. I'm very involved on VC, startup, Twitter, all that, because I've been in a couple of accelerators. I've worked in marketing, and I've seen the rebirth of people getting into starting businesses, and it's been in, of course, Black women of color. We can start a business in our sleep, easy, on our phone. And when it comes to finance, we are the ones that have $1 trillion spending power, but yet by certain years we probably will have no net worth. So I look at statistics, but also I look at the situation, and also look, how can I be of a solution base of it? And it's like, how can I scale what I am building to be a service? And yeah, I get clients that don't fit it sometimes. It's rare and few between, because it's how I market myself, how I qualify my clients, but it's also things that I do to purposely attract my client, because I know who my client is.
Right.
And
the language, where they need to be. So
I know,
like you said, it's a part of that client offering.
if you can get through that, yeah. But it's going back to, this is my way of doing what everyone loves to say, close the wealth gap. or no matter if it's personal finance or if it's business, on the business side of it. So that is my way of doing so, because it's more about saying, oh, diversity and inclusion, because you hear that in corporate, but yet and still you see people that don't really help when it comes to diversity and inclusion. And then when it comes to freelancing, usually the face of what you see freelancing is not what's on this panel right here. So that's the reason why I'm very adamant about the clients that I work with, and then what messaging and sentiment am I putting out there to attract those type of clients.
I think that was beautifully said by both of you. I think it takes more of us to attract more of us to get us in the door, you know, to launch, to not be afraid, to also break maybe, old habits within family, like we said, with personal financing or that ain't no real job, you know, like, you know, I've heard that, you know, with fear-based,
Triggered.
everyone's heard that, you know, thinking outside of that box. Like, I want to start a business and having people that support me on that journey, as well, like we said, and bringing other people aboard, because the road to entrepreneurship, whether you say it's entrepreneurship, freelancing, independent business, it's really tough. And so you need to have a network of people, which is also something we will be discussing in our next in session, which will be in the fall. We are looking to have the third session speaking about growing your team, which also will speak to networking, because that is so vital. Like we also said, Nadia will be joining us again for the money management piece, as it relates to taxes. So hopefully you've already done your taxes. Hopefully we're ready to talk about budgeting, because that is what we will be discussing. Because that's the big word. People don't want to discuss budgeting.
It's a cuss word.
It is.
That's the other B word.
Yeah, but how are you going to grow
I legit said it in my email one time, the other B word.
Yeah, I like that as a phrase. But I'm thankful for you ladies for joining us today. If I did not say at the top of it, this is a series. So each series will talk about another financial pillar. Like I said, launching, scaling, growing, building. If you did not catch the first one about launching, it is on Wethos's YouTube channel, as well as this one for how to build your clientele. Our next one will be announced pretty soon. Like we said, we'll be talking about growing your team as it relates to networking and also that money management piece. Ladies, if you would like to tell everyone where they can find you and how to connect you and become your new client.
Okay, so on Instagram and on LinkedIn, the handle is Work with Quirk. So WORKWITHKWERK. And then workwithquirk.com. So feel free to reach out. We are here to support you and provide resources just like this. And I'll close out by saying thank you, Ashley. Representation truly does matter, even though that might be a cliche saying. And it's meant a lot to be a part of this. And I thank you both. I learned a lot from you too, Nadia. So I was taking notes in the background.
Oh, I don't think this is the last time we'll all probably speak. So that's why I said the selection of contributors is key. Everyone that's selected for these webinars have value at the front door. And for us, like I've already said in email, we want to continue the relationships that we are building with the contributors that we're selecting. Nadia, for close.
Again, I am grateful for this opportunity. I love this panel. How I can be found, www.thebrandsandbands.com. If you see it change to Nadia C. Vanderhoff, it's a reason, because I'm getting ready to build that out. On anything, it's always NV Knows or my The Brands and Bands on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all that. On pretty much every social media there is, either NV Knows or The Brands and Bands. So that's how you can find me.
You go, girl.
And I'm Ashley Williams, head of partnerships here at Visionary Rising Studio. If you're an independent business looking for strategic development, if you're looking for brand development, or if you're just looking for a basic website or content production, we are a production and strategy studio located out of Austin, Texas, but we travel. So please feel free to contact me as partnerships lead at ashley.williams@visionaryrising.co. Like I said, if you've not already integrated Wethos, it's okay, but you can check it out today after this webinar. And feel free, if you have any questions, to reach out to their team. I would like to give you back your time for this afternoon, ladies. And like I said, this will not be the last time we speak. Thank you for joining, everyone that is still on this call, and we look forward to the next in session. Enjoy your day.
Mhm.
Thank you.